Okay. Next one is 123 QS. 123 QS, as I call it. So the next thing is, again, most people find that these performance review conversations can be quite vague, quite generic. There's too much talking. It's not very focused. There aren't any particular specific outcomes when they walk out of the door. You know, a lot of people say just a bit of a chat, which of course, in many respects, is just, it's a real shame and it's horrendous, really. What a waste of precious time and energy. So I would urge you as an appraisee to work out your 123 QS. What do I mean? Very simply, if you could only ask one question of your manager, what would it be? If you could ask two, what would they be? And likewise with three. Similarly, if you could only say one thing, statement, if there's only one thing you could say to your manager, what would you say? If you could say two things, what would they be? And again, for three, what would they be? This process tends to increase your confidence and, of course, your clarity and incisiveness. It's also useful if, God forbid, your manager doesn't have enough time, or even worse, they're not very good at this. You then have a very, very clear focus on what you want to get from it, and it will put you in better stead for getting what you need from the experience. Okay, so focus on that if you wish. Okay. Next one is called reverse pyramid. That's a Y. So reverse pyramid. This ties in partly to the previous one, which is that incisive, relevant brevity, as I often put it, are three very, very important features of really effective presentation performance reviews, I would say. And this is because quite often the manager and all the members of staff are too verbose. They're talking too much, it's not very focused, they're using 100 words when they could use 5, and so on. And a particular manifestation of this can come when it comes to, for example, the appraisee answering questions. You see it in interviews as well. They're asked a question and they just give everything. So it's a bit like start saying, generally, we start at the base of the pyramid, we give all of the information in detail and response. We don't necessarily think through it clearly before we speak. We don't really structure it in our head before we speak. And then it's actually towards the end of speaking for a few minutes that we actually find the crunch points, the key answer, the core message. So the idea is that you don't do that. You actually go in the opposite direction. And that's what I mean by reverse pyramid speaking. So, for example, your manager says, what would you say would be a good example of something that you achieved this year that you were really proud of or pleased with? A reverse pyramid answer would be something along these lines. Well, I personally believe that one thing I did consistently well throughout the year was maintain the morale of the team, and I believe that was the case for 3 specific reasons. Now you'll notice that kind of response, where I'm just giving the pinnacle response, the essence of it, prompts probably more interest in the manager, e.g., okay, what are these 3 specific reasons? Then you can give them, and then you start to flesh out your answer and say more. So generally speaking, when you use the reverse pyramid method, as I call it, for speaking, people want to know more. They're more interested, they're more engaged. So if you want to play around with that, that's a good fun thing to practice actually at home when you're doing house chores and you're a bit bored. Just say it out loud. Okay. Last one. Last one is a job circle. So if you want to, you can create for yourself what's called a job circle. It's very simple and it can be used in very straightforward, simple ways and or in very complex ways. It's entirely up to you. So for example, you have a 0 in the center of the circle, and what you do is you break up your job into its essential component parts. So for example, as a trainer and a coach, breaking my job into its component parts, what do I have to do? Well, I have to train staff and coach them. I also have to do admin as part of that. I am responsible for managing the finance as well of the operation. I have to do CAM work, key account management work, which is, put simply, just making sure the clients are happy on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis. I have to do design work. I have to do research work. I have to do planning, and so on. So that is a job circle for my job as a trainer. Therefore, the first thing you do is create one for yourself, of course. And then, what you can do, again, remember you can use this in simple, straightforward ways and or complex ways. What you do is you put a 0 in the middle of the circle, and the outer circle represents a 10. You can change this to 100 if you want to as well. So for example, it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, on a scale. And then what you can do is you can go through the wheel one chunk at a time, one section at a time, and if you wish, give yourself a rating out of 10, where 10 is perhaps perfect, 5 is moderate, and 1 is I'm very poor at that job, or that part of the job. So I might decide, well, I feel that I've done a great job with the training, and give myself a 9 out of 10 for that. I've been on top of my admin, I'm going to give myself 9 out of 10 for that. I haven't done as much design work as I wanted, I'm going to give myself a 7 for that, and so on. So you go through and you give yourself marks out of 10 accordingly. And then you're going to end up with an inner wheel, and that can tell you how bumpy or smooth the ride is, so to speak. Then of course, you can develop that further. So for example, with your manager, you know what to say in terms of what you feel you've done well. You have a clear idea of where you need to talk in terms of where you can get better. If you're involved in personal development programs, career development programs, that kind of thing, again, you can use these, take them out and put them separately on the page perhaps, and then write down specific goals in terms of how you're going to develop these areas. So a job circle is just quite a nice way to visualise and process what you're doing in your work. Also, managers tend to appreciate seeing these. It can make their jobs easier as well. Unless, of course, you've given yourself 10 for everything and they've given you 1. That's another video. Alright, so that's it. I hope, Richard, that was helpful to you. Just 5 things on how to prepare as a member of staff. And again, I've tried to pick things that most people don't know about. Alright, so I hope that was helpful. If it was, I'd really appreciate it if you could press the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel, and click like as well if you approved. That'd be marvellous. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much. If you need anything, get in touch. As you know, I'm always here to support people. And yeah, take care and see you on the next video.